Okay, it all started with like, yeah, when you were, perhaps it all started with me with dyslexia, don't feeling part of the system, projecting my outsidership on like more, yeah, on institutions. Like I started squatting. Are there a lot of former squatters here? No? Yes? Yeah? 5. I squatted a factory in Zwolle in 2002. Organized a couple of years, a lot of gigs. It's wonderful, yeah. Like it all started with the idea, like, yeah, I can organize something with just 20 euros that I throw in a copy machine. I could make my own flyers, and with these flyers, I just like I look in the streets and like who looks alternative, and I give like them a poster or a flyer, and then perhaps they are summoned to my gigs. I slowly from squatting I rolled into more like real activism, mostly anti-military actions, quite extreme things we planned, and I'm quite happy that they didn't happen, like real sabotage. But like after a couple of years, I guess, like in activism, there is such a lot of problems in the world, and you can't ever do enough. So you burn yourself out, and you ask from all the people in your surrounding, as a proper self-respecting activist, you ask to do the same. And after some years, I thought like, yeah, I want to develop myself, but what can I do? A friend of me said like, yeah, you should study. You're intelligent. But I thought like, yeah, I can't stamp things in my head. Like I can't remember really good. But I make things. I hang these things in public space. I print things. So perhaps Art Academy could do. I could just like show to myself that I could get my propedeuse. And at Art Academy, yeah, like what I all learned from squatting was like, yeah, I can do with really nothing. Like financially, I can make huge things. But like the art world felt really like closed. Like there is such a lot happening in the world. Like, but everybody has this feeling of like the far from our bed show. What can we really do? I asked myself like, what's the role of an artist? I didn't. No teacher of me learned me like had like a social practice. So I walk with you through my like From activism, I had like a love, of course, for woodcuts, for like all the things that these anarchist like zines feed to you, like from these images from Frans Massereel and Kate Koolwich. I started at the Art Academy. I just like I saw it was around 9/11, and I saw like a lot of angry Islamic people in the newspaper, and I started just to copy them into like woodcuts. But hanging these woodcuts in public space, that felt really like, oh, this is going somewhere. But it was not about the image, more like doing the action in public space. Like people see these images and like, what's the meaning of these images? Why is that hanging there? Who puts such a lot of effort in something that's completely not commercially like squeezable? So doing this in public space, yeah, that's something. But yeah, how can we there's this Dutch saying, the far from our bed show. Like, how can we mean something with all the misery in the world happening? Like I thought perhaps I should make a statement. There's this banner in the middle of the city in Zwolle, at the side of the highway, and it says like, it was from like Groeneland Achmea, the insurance company. Perhaps the only thing I can do is show my engagement. So, as an artist, like, hey, I want to help. So I made this banner, 8 by 12 meters, 120 meters of sewing. I'm engaged with your misery. Ik ben begaan met jullie ellende. Thousands of people passing by. It's a sort of tactical media, you call this, like using like this place, occupying it. It's a beeldbezetting. It's an image occupation. After this work, like, yeah, I showed my engagement. I showed like, hey, I want to help, but I didn't knew what else could I do than this. So after this, I had a crisis for 1.5 years. Like, this was the highest, literally the highest point I could reach as an artist. I felt really like disempowered. After Art Academy, I graduated with all kind of videos of interventions. I occupied the whole Art Academy, but I still felt like, art space, galleries, the Art Academy, it's like a reservate for thinking different, but it's where are the real people? Where are the real problems of society? There's such a distance. So I heard of this master in social design called the No Academy, and they involved artists to look in a sort of refreshing ways to societal issues. But we as artists, there were 5 artists, and there were like, we got tutors, finally tutors that learned, that had like a social practice, and they talked with us, and they reflected on like, what you could else do than showing your engagement. But the problem was still like we were in this think tank, reflecting on society. It felt a little bit like these architects in the 60s who made like this beautiful buildings, made a lot of space for the normal people, light, no polluted air. But like in some years, these places became like terrible banlieues. And like we as a think tank were looking at society, at like what's happening there, how could we change that? And we kept coming up with ideas, but there was still a distance. So I wanted to break this distance.
Hallo, ik ben Domenique Himmelsbach de Vries. Ik ben goed in oplossingsgericht denken. Ik ben initiatiefnemend, kritisch. Ik ben goed in organiseren, posters ontwerpen, video editen. Ik kan fietsen repareren.
For the English talking people.
Klussen.
I made posters
Glas snijden.
with
Glas zetten.
with
Kan lossen.
all the things where I'm good in, and that's quite a lot, from organizing to making flyers to photographing to cooking vegan for 100 or 1,000 people. I play New Wave on your party. Do you want help? At your service. The local newspaper found out, and it was a sort of self-integration course. Like, I just lived in Amsterdam, and I felt really lonely and distant to like the city, and in once I wove my own story. Like I get like 50 reactions. I helped 2 months people one day for free, and it felt like this is the dialogue that I search with my as an artist. This is like a self-integration course. This is like the IJmere, the renting company. They were part in listening to the stories we made, the interventions, and they said like, wow, Domenique is, because he doesn't have an agenda, he comes in contact with people where we would never come in contact with, like as like a municipality, as a renting company, you get always a certain kind of complaint, but like without having an agenda, there's a complete different dialogue. Yeah, so this was for me a sort of the start of like, okay, art can be a dialogue. It is not only a statement. It can be an adventure just happening in the city. The Wilders webshop. 2012, the budget cuts in art. A lot of artists were demonstrating against Geert Wilders, Halbe Zijlstra here on the Malieveld. And I realized like, with my background in activism, like as an activist, you always project a sort of an enemy on authority, on the other. And like demonstrating against Geert Wilders made the gap bigger between the art, the budget cut art, and the average citizen. So I thought like, perhaps we could turn this around. Instead of like being really against, like what would happen if he would be my muse? If I just like, instead of, just like inspire myself on him. Like this is a community art platform, everybody could join. We've got from the doormat to the garden dwarfs made in Poland. To like, it's a sort of like, these politicians ask from artists like, you should find a hole in the market, you should keep your own trousers up, you can't live from subsidy anymore, and okay, let's do that, at your service. This made us also like the first artists who were positively portrayed by Dutch tabloid television station Pauwnet. I just walk you through like a couple of examples, like how I came to like where we're now. Of course, you see here like it's just all made by hand. Silkscreen prints on T-shirts. Riso copies this project brought me in contact with like the stencil kelder, that's now the stencil zolder. This is the monument for OK people. It's in the geographical center of the Netherlands. Governments use monuments to write history, to show us, to tell certain stories. And I thought like, but there are such a lot of beautiful stories, obscure artists, that don't get enough attention. Could I use the monument in a private way? I got invited to build a sculpture in public space, and it was close to the geographical center of the Netherlands. And it's a participatory monument. It's like you can subscribe, like collect 10 signs, and I transfer like the engraving costs, and we build together this monument. We need to run through it, I guess. A paper monument for the paperless. In 2013, I got invited by refugee group We Are Here in Amsterdam, who first started as a tent camp and later squatted a church called the Vluchtkerk. They invited artists to give these people something to do, give workshops, and with the outcome create more visibility. And there were like storytelling workshops. There were, and I started there a workshop in wood cutting. Finally, I had a good idea. Just like woodcuts, it has like a social tradition. Woodcuts give unity through all kind of handwritings. Let's portray each other in woodcuts, and let's print these in large quantities and use these in actions, and thereby raise a paper monument for the paperless. These portraits are like, yeah, I put the sound off from this video because it's a little bit too long. Glue these in public space, and during the presidency of Europe, I got invited to make like to do a residency and to show like there were all these meetings in Amsterdam of the European officials, and they were talking about Europe, and I should be a bridge between the city and the citizens. So finally I had this time to, I bought like a printing press, and I started printing at the side of this wall of the marine terrain. And the presidency thought like, oh, this is such a beautiful project. Let's make a publication. And I thought like, yeah, let's print a newspaper. And these newspapers, we printed like 6,000 newspapers, and activists can order them and cut them open and paste them in public space. And it hangs now from Thessaloniki to Madrid to Sarajevo to Boston, all over Europe and beyond the borders of Europe. And it's beautiful that such a project, yeah, it's a tool for people who, yeah, in activism I miss a lot of like imagination to tell in a different way a story, and this just like people organize their own actions and glue it, or they come to a workshop and they print these portraits. And this, yeah, this is growing. It's a sort of like open source. Yeah, you see them here. How much time do we've got? Are we on? Last example. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, here all over the walls of Europe. I made like a different version of this with a status holder. It came on Omroep Max in the television reality program The Nieuwe Vermeer, where I wove like through the eyes of Vermeer the story of the undocumented refugees and getting papers. Finally, I portrayed this guy from Sudan. Yeah, and like between all these long-term projects, I've got such a lot of ideas that I never execute. So I always write them down and with a small sketch, but nobody understands these sketches. And like last year, I started to draw them out as tutorials, advertisements, and here you see them in tonight. They open like as blueprints, cyanotypes. 2/3 of the 120 ideas you can. I invite you to get inspired. Like it, yeah, they're all like it are monuments. It are like interventions in public space, like campaigns. Read through it. Say to me like what kind of problems you have, and we can brainstorm. Let's wrap it up.
So you like. So you like to make yourself useful in a way, maybe useful to society or to art or to activism. How do you define your goals? How do you define success for your projects?
Yeah, the success is for me that the project is really used as a sort of urban legend. People tell the story, like, hey, did you heard about like this could be a solution, but like this guy did something so counterintuitive and it worked. Like it's nice that these stories are like told. That success. That people use it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you think art can be a sort of answer to polarization that we feel now?
Yeah, there is a huge difference between like propaganda and art, and I think in art there's space for ambivalence, and propaganda is just one side of the story. And for me, when there is a tension around like a social issue, and you just push on the painful spot, or like you turn the problem around, there it starts to become art. So yeah, like a sort of artistic way, or like spatial approach, or turning problems around. Yeah, there is a lot of.
You try to create some more space for a different perspective, a more playful way to deal with things that are felt heavy to many people, maybe. Or And you say you started as an activist and then became a social artist. So, what has happened? Have you become a softie? Have you become a populist? And what is the next step? If you had to change again from an artist to something else, what would it be?
A banker.
A banker. So you want to collect results?
What's the next step? No, I'm just in my activist retirement. I just spent all my time on making art. Sorry, another time, this question.
And you're not going to become an artist, retire? Or
No, this is the past life. No, it's like this idea, like I can execute all kind of interventions in public space, but like sharing these ideas, sharing this different way of thinking. I made like a PDF with all the ideas also as drawings, and I want to offer these to exhibition space in Peru, in all over the world, and then with just a streaming talk, we can talk about the problems there. And I would like to, that this also, it's a sort of inspiration center. It's like, it should be used, and it should be like, and I don't need to execute all the time like these big projects or these big monuments.
Okay, so maybe slowly you're becoming an influencer. Do you use social media?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I think it's such a filthy word, but like, I guess like, I just want to show, for example, like, just these insights that I had as an activist and as an artist. Like, what kind of images do we use? Like, if we are against something, do we show then all the time like bombs and like the things that we don't want to let happen? Are we showing these images, or are we showing like something else? What like, yeah, the subconsciousness thinks in images, and don't think about like a pink elephant, and you think about the pink elephant, and this is adding like to the field, and like just like being conscious about like how could we counteract this.
So you want to get away from addressing the problems and think about solutions.
Yeah, and just like sabotage culture. It's also like, I don't have the answers, but it's like everybody is looking this way. Everybody is going through this strategy. They get always this outcome. could we rethink that? Yeah, that's.
Okay. Okay, maybe if somebody else has a question, an urgent question, there is a possibility to ask something. Yes.
This is a stupid question maybe, but I think you're saying you're doing a lot of art also. You raised the question where you're taking money from. So I wonder if you also do side jobs in the meantime, what kind of side jobs?
I do, yeah, like they say, as an artist you can shit without eating, and I think that's like, it's like, yeah, I live from this kind of things, but like
Yeah, okay.
sometimes
No
there's
problem there.
no budget, sometimes there's a big, yeah, like doing, I'm now involved in a community art project in a slaughterhouse in Haarlem, and that, I hope that generates more,
Yeah.
and sometimes I sell my prints,
Yeah.
that's like,
So you live from your work actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But like, we just bought a house, so I'm forced also in like getting more income, and that's also like, yeah, how do
No, it's a
you do
good
that?
problem, and reaches also the heart, I think, for a lot of artists and activists, where to get the money from. It's a really important question. This is a lot of time avoided, and I think that it also, influence your choices. If you don't get any money from the work you do, then you have to change, of course, because you gotta live. So I think it's also important to know if you can live from your work or not. So that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, just having a small studio,
Yeah.
doing projects on location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any
And sometimes-
chance you will be doing the next campaign for Wilders at the next elections?
He should first buy like the web shop, and it's for sale. Some months ago, you can buy it with Ideal just for 50,000 euros. You can buy the rights of the web shop.
Cheap.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Domenique.